Bert Kreischer has his own movie. He consistently fills out arenas doing stand-up tours. Ryan Reynolds basically owes his career to Bert Kreischer, and Bert Kreischer is, by any rational evaluation, one of the most, if not the single most, prominent comedians alive today. But if you turn on the internet, you'll see thousands of videos attacking Bert Kreischer. Well, it's time for the internet to hear the other side. Being a comedian is hard. Many people don't seem to understand this. Touring and going to new places each night to perform, being on the road nonstop, it's grueling. It takes a certain type of person to be a comedian. It takes a certain type of grit. Bert has that grit, that determination, that relentless intensity, and he has it in spades. He really is sort of similar to the Energizer Bunny in a way. It's almost like somebody put like 100 of those huge D batteries inside of him, and he just goes and goes and goes. Bert's energy and his amazing genetics, as far as I'm concerned, are some of the world's newest modern marvels. And Bert has also shown himself to be an astute businessman, or at least a guy smart enough to have the right people in place to handle his finances. Bert is funny. He has a lot of funny jokes. He knows how to write the jokes. He also knows how to be funny off the cuff. He just overall has a likable personality, an affability to him, and when people watch him, you can tell that they are in a very risible state of mind just from glancing upon the man. Bert Kreischer was the 6th largest comedian of 2024 in terms of comedy tours. He sold over 388,000 tickets and made $29.7 million. So before you say that he is no good, before you say that people do not like him, you need to come to terms with the fact that he was the largest selling comedian of the entire Joe Rogan comedian universe. And speaking of Joe Rogan, he's a funny guy, big bald head, but I haven't seen a movie called The Fear Factor come out about Joe Rogan's life yet. And here's the thing, Bert has actually had 2 movies come out based on his life. There's the one you all know and love, The Machine, but there's also National Lampoon's Van Wilder. And just to briefly touch upon the history there, Bert Kreischer was identified as the top partier at the top party school in the United States of America, and legendary director Oliver Stoner bought the film rights to Bert's life. And keep in mind, this was all the way back in the early 2000s, which just gives you a sense of just how famous Bert is, because he's way more famous now, and even back then they were looking into making movies based on him. Now the deal, it eventually fell through, but one of the writers changed Bert's name in the script that had been written for the potential movie about Bert, and they sold it to National Lampoon. National Lampoon's Van Wilder was a movie largely based on Bert's life, and Bert even confirmed this on Joe Rogan's podcast that he had spoken to National Lampoon executives that told him this was indeed the case. So yes, you could very well say Ryan Reynolds only has a career due to Bert Kreischer. Wow, now that really puts things into perspective. One of the biggest critiques I see about Bert Kreischer is that people don't like his laugh. Well, have you ever heard Tucker Carlson's laugh? People seem to love his laugh, so I just think that is a big load of hogwash and hypocrisy, and people are just looking for anything to hate on Bert Kreischer about. I mean, how can you like Tucker Carlson's laugh, but then hate Bert Kreischer for his eccentric laugh? As the young people like to say, make it make sense. The bottom line is this: the hate and excessive criticism of Bert Kreischer has to stop. A lot of the data I've looked at appears to show it's possibly making him drink even more. Bert Kreischer is a big, lovable guy who wears his heart on his sleeve. He's actually pretty fit, all things considered. I'd wager he's a lot more fit than a lot of the people that are constantly making videos, making fun of him and calling him an alcoholic, etc. And yes, I do agree that he needs to cut down on his drinking, but he is a strong personality type, and all of you saying the stuff that you are saying is just going to make him double down most likely. So consider that before you make your videos on him. He also has great genetics. We've seen this when he has stopped drinking and started working out for a little while. You see great growth in his shoulders, etc. when he does things like that. And he's just, he really is a really tough, good guy. I mean, look at the Ari Shaffir incident. That kind of betrayal from a good friend, that could have easily ended anybody else's career, but he continues doing podcasts, he continues being a comedian, and he's even continued to have a friendship with Ari Shaffir even after all of that happened. So if you don't think that he has a certain spark in him and a certain great, indomitable strength within him after considering all of this, then you may need to reevaluate where you're coming from in your criticism of Bert. Bert is funny, he is a great comedian, and he is a great entertainment figure on track to being a legendary entertainment figure. And I hope, if nothing else, that this video will inspire more people to have respect for Bert Kreischer.